Good evening, everybody. Welcome to First Church, First Center, Religious Science here in New York City. This is our Louise class, our self-healing class, based upon this book, which I presume most of you have seen, hopefully many of you have read. Louise as you know, she was a practitioner here in New York. She studied with this group, though many years ago. And the Science of Mind studies were the basis of, I think, all of her work. But like any good Science of Mind student, like Ernest Holmes and all the others, they read new thought from all different kinds of places. The Science of Mind teaching is really about taking the best of these ancient teachings and understanding that there's one energy, one power, and that this power and this energy is in each and every one of us. So comes the question, how to use it? And Louise, as a genius, stuck upon a chord, that with people throughout America, but beyond America, throughout the world, where she said the bottom line for everybody that I've ever worked with is they don't feel good enough. And so part of her mission was to build people up and help build up their consciousness so they could have a greater sense of deserving the best, or certainly improving their lives and their relationships, improving every area of their life. She did what none before her had done by reaching an audience of over 100 million people. So we're proud to continue teaching new thought, teaching new thought principles, science of mind here at the center every week. I've been presenting her material for over 25 years every week, wherever I've been, and it's, I'm sure, helped people in numbers that I can never understand, and in a similar way, her book has reached the world. Today I'm given a lot of new technology around me, so I'll be careful if I don't bump a few of you off somehow, but we've done some improvements here because we've hit a few milestones in terms of viewership, and so we've had to improve equipment every week for the past few weeks. So let's see how this works. You Can Heal Your Life is a book that will help us attract healthy relationships. And I guess I can't follow this script that they're giving me, so I'm going to set it aside. So here's the question for tonight. Do you have people problems? As you examine your life, and then what comes up for you when I ask that question? Do you have areas of your life that don't seem to be working well with people? Do you often find yourself in relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable or unable to meet your needs? Do you feel like you're constantly giving in every place in your relationships? In other words, you're doing all the giving and it's not being reciprocated. Do you find that in your personal friendships, people aren't meeting you halfway? That's a question for you to think about. We do this in our classes. We have these little rhetorical questions, and we don't necessarily want you to answer me, or it's for you to answer yourself. Are you in a relationship that's where you do all the work, do all the giving, or has that been your story, your life story? Do you have a hard time maybe saying no to people, or do you have a hard time setting healthy boundaries in your relationships? I know that was true of me at different points in my life. Is that true for anybody else? Do you find yourself drawn to partners or friends who are possessive, who just maybe are a little bit too controlling, who seem to like step over or on you, or just, has that happened to you before? Is it happening now? Next little question, are you always the one, again, it sounds like the same question, that's making the effort in your relationships? Is your relationship, by your own estimation, lopsided? If your answer is yes to any of this, It just indicates that there's work to be done. It isn't necessarily that there's work to be done on the relationship, because we do our work, as you all know, with ourselves, right? So if I'm saying yes to some of these questions, it indicates to me that I need to be doing some work on myself, some inner work. We can start today. We always begin with the day we're in, by the way. You know, yesterday ended last night, said Raymond Charles Barker, our founder. We can start today. We can be in a new moment this evening. You can just say, I intend to do this in a better way. Starting here, starting now, we can start today to build healthier relationships and or attract new people in our lives. One thing I learned from a funny sponsor in one of the programs years ago, she had been married 7 times. She says, one thing I've learned is there's no shortage of men. And I laughed. So if you don't have it right this time, you know, put yourself out there and try again. So anyway, the thing is, learning to love yourself is what we're all about here. Having healthy relationships, you know, really can be beautiful things if you have one, right? And they can serve as a mirror for our own growth and development. When I've been in relationships, boy, you learn a lot. I'm sure you all can relate to that, right? You never knew that all these things were your issues. So, you know, in relationships, you can become aware of your issues. If you're working in concert with somebody else, it helps us to see our own patterns, our strengths, and certainly the areas that are there for improvement. Healthy relationships can provide a source of support and encouragement as we go through life's challenges and pursue our goals. By cultivating healthy relationships, we can learn to communicate more effectively and be more compassionate, and then deepen our understanding of ourselves and others. The affirmation we use often here is, I love, accept, and approve of myself. Or I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. Affirmations like this emphasize the need to love and respect ourselves before we can really attract and maintain healthy relationships. I want to speak about consciousness next. Consciousness is the sum total of our beliefs. It's the sum total of our thoughts and emotions. Our consciousness, you can think of a lens, it's through which we perceive and interpret the world around us, including our relationships. If your consciousness is a mixed bag, if it's full of fear and lack, and you have a lot of limiting beliefs, then you're likely to attract people and situations that reflect those same qualities. For example, if we believe that we're not worthy of love, or that we will always be abandoned, we may be unconsciously seeking out partners who will confirm those beliefs. We may find ourselves in relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable. Have you ever been in one of them before? Or where we're constantly, again, giving, and you know, it just seems like it's a lopsided situation. This isn't really about the other person as much as it is about our consciousness. It's because our consciousness is limiting our ability to see the truth about ourselves and the world around us. Here's a truth for you from a book I used to study. We are as God created us, or we are as the universe created us, whole and complete and perfect. Similarly, and here's the other thing, the other people in your life, they are too. They are as the universe created them, whole and complete and perfect. So similarly, if we have unresolved wounds from past relationships or trauma of any kind, most likely we're carrying some of that into our present relationships. It might be very difficult for you to be in a relationship if you've been in a destructive relationship or two, because most of us carry the hurts. You know, you're in a new relation, all of a sudden you're projecting onto a new person, you know, the stuff that's happened to you in the past. And they're not responsible for this. It's just we bring that stuff with us. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, says we carry around a lot of ancient wounds. He talked about we carry corpses. We carry, you know, these ancient hurts. And are we damaged goods? No, we're not. But the fact is we have a lot of beliefs and we have a lot of stuff. It's like we carry it around on our back and we bring it into the new moment. And, we're tough to do business with because this new person, they're not prepared for all that. We've known whoever they are, you've known each other a while. And as you get to know each other better, all this stuff starts coming out. So we begin with ourselves always, and we release any of this stuff, this baggage, these ideas that we have about ourselves that we're not good enough. We release it and we let it go. We don't criticize ourselves for having it. Wherever we think that we're not enough, we begin by saying, I love you, I accept you, and I approve of you exactly as you are. And wherever we notice a pattern, we release the pattern. We release it and we let it go. Again, this is a tough one for people to understand if they're new to metaphysics. When we say in truth there's nothing outside of you, really what that speaks to is this whole belief system that you have is within you. And because we have this belief system, then people who come into our world, we project things upon them. And, we're caused to our own experience. So we're creating so much of this in consciousness. So that's the thing to remember. It isn't so much about in a relationship improving another person. It's always, from a metaphysical point of view, from a new thought point of view, from self-healing, it's about changing your consciousness. If you're in a relationship where you're overly anxious or you're jealous, or you're controlling, you may not know it, but you're probably pushing people away. And, you might say, I don't get along with people, people don't like me or love me, whatever. You see, it's the way we act, what we do, we're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. We talk about abandonment and rejection. What we don't always realize is that we are the ones that are abandoning ourselves, and we're rejecting ourselves. So we come back to what Louise Hay always taught. I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. We begin with that. And we start with a fundamental spiritual understanding that you are whole, complete. You are an individualization of this one precious life, this energy, this omnipresence. We're one with it. And it is, as we elevate our consciousness and begin to love ourselves and honor ourselves and say, look, I'm part of God. God doesn't make junk. I'm here to be celebrated. I'm special. Or as Raymond Charles Barker said, I'm the whole bit. As you start to understand that, I am one with the one. I'm one with the universe. And begin to love yourself. Then you become more attractive. You naturally, as you start to love yourself, love yourself, and you never willing to criticize yourself, and you cut yourself a lot of slack because you know that you're here to learn and grow. As you're loving yourself like that, you're going to be naturally being able to, first of all, you're going to become attractive. Because those kind of people who have that gift, they're a magnet to good because they've elevated their consciousness. They don't have to control anybody, twist any arms, or do anything to have people in their lives because they have it. Whatever that it is, it's self-esteem, it's self-love, it's self-appreciation. And you'll say there's something about that guy or there's something about that person. And they're attractive because they have it. They have self-regard, they have self-esteem. On the opposite end of that is when we're controlling and we're looking for guarantees and we're just, fearful and, we're telling everybody what they should do and all that. It's not very attractive at all, and it does, in fact, push people away. And we create rejection in our life. So this lesson this evening is for us to cultivate a healthy and positive consciousness if we want to attract and maintain healthy relationships. So we want to actively work on limiting and releasing, I'll say it in a different way. We want to work on releasing limiting beliefs. We want to be willing to heal past wounds. Okay, whoever it was might be they may have passed away 20 years ago, and still we're carrying stuff. Or the divorce was 7 years ago and we're still carrying stuff. Wherever you've been through something, it could be relationships in terms of your work, it could be a relationship with your family, and you've been traumatized. And all of us, I think, or most of us, have been through some very painful times, and we get it. We have empathy for that. And you have to feel your feelings, and hopefully you don't stay in those states, those wounded states. Hopefully you pick up your bed and walk. You pick up and you move forward, and you start engaging life again. And make sure that conversation that you're having is on high, meaning that you begin to work with the important conversation, which is the conversation you're having with yourself, to elevate yourself. That's your consciousness. When we operate from that place of understanding, where we're living this affirmative living that we teach here, we're going to attract people who are in a similar wavelength, who have similar qualities. And you're going to be better equipped also to handle anything that comes up in relationships. This lesson wants me to bring up our childhood. The impact of our childhood on relationships. Well, it's pretty obvious. Our beliefs about marriage and family and relationships in general start with what we call ground zero, what we saw at home. And that's the question I throw out now, just for you to think of for a second or two. What did you experience at home when you were little? If you had both parents, one parent, or a blended family of some kind, what did you see at home? What was the atmosphere like? How did people talk to one another? How did they relate to one another? Because those early years, those years, informed us all in different ways. It also communicated to you patterns, that have affected your relationships as adults. So have you taken on any of the beliefs from your childhood? It's important to identify and change patterns that are not working for you. One thing you could ask yourself of any negative pattern, is it true? Is it self-loving? I've got an affirmation to maintain or attract healthy relationships for you tonight, and it says, I deserve to be in a loving, healthy relationship. And again, I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. Louise worked a lot with mirrors. She called it mirror work. I would suggest that you go into your bathroom every day and make a point of looking into your eyes and look in, connect with yourself and say, I love you, I accept you, I approve of you exactly as you are. So, we want to improve our relationship with ourselves, first of all. And wherever we're critical of ourselves, we want to release that. Another tool for creating a healthy relationship is visualization. And you can do that. I didn't think of that until this week. You can visualize a perfect relationship. You can visualize an improved relationship. A couple of questions for you in a visualization, if you were going to do one, or if you want to write about it, is what does a healthy relationship look like to you? And this doesn't have to be like a romantic relationship. What does a healthy relationship look like to you? What qualities would we like to see in these relationships? I have a brief, very, very brief visualization exercise for you to illustrate how this might work, something that you could do yourself. So let's do it together. It'll only take a minute or two. So let's relax. Take a breath or two, get comfortable. This will not be a long, extended thing. It's going to be very fast. Get comfortable. Breathe in and breathe out. And again and again. Visualize yourself standing in a beautiful garden or peaceful place in nature. And as you're sitting there, notice in your mind the vibrant colors, the lush greenery, and the soothing sounds of nature. Imagine that you are surrounded by a loving and supportive energy, a force of unconditional love that is always with you, guiding you, protecting you. Take a moment and connect with this energy and feel its warmth and comfort. Know that this energy, this place is always available to you and that there is here to help you. It's here to help you attract and maintain good relationships, fulfilling relationships. And as you stand there, visualize yourself surrounded by the people you love and cherish. See their faces, one and all. Hear their laughter. Let yourself feel their embrace, their love. Now imagine yourself in a current relationship or a future relationship that is healthy, loving, and fulfilling. See yourself and your partner in a happy and harmonious state. You notice that there's laughter. You notice that there's joy, understanding, and there's mutual respect. Notice how wonderful that feels. Visualize the two of you communicating effectively, listening to each other's needs and desires, and working together with joy and happiness, working together to create a life filled with happiness and love. See yourselves growing and evolving together, supporting each other in your personal and spiritual journeys, and learning from each other's strengths and weaknesses. And as you continue to visualize this happy and fulfilling relationship, affirm to yourself, I am worthy of love. And you say that to yourself, I am worthy of love. I deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. I'm capable of attracting and maintaining healthy and positive relationships in life. So let's take another breath and come back into the present. So I did this so you can know that you can do this type of thing anytime you want. You can write it out in a journal and you can read it to yourself aloud, or you can play it back to yourself. And these creative visualization exercises can be very, very helpful because you can take the time to add your own input to the process, and your mind is very creative. It will respond to you. So just like doing a big vision board, create a big vision. Create a great vision about your relationships too. Create a great vision about how you want to improve your present relationship, or maybe create the space for a new one. Now, for those of you who find yourself in relationships now that are not so wonderful, so we begin wherever we are, whatever relationship it is. Relationship problems oftentimes show up like with anger and people with short fuses and bickering and codependency, where there's lack of boundaries, there's bad communication. So here's a few questions that you can answer to yourself. Again, are we putting our own needs aside again for the sake of this relationship? See, I've counseled a lot of people I've seen in more of my mother's generation, and people they used to say were staying married for the kids, and they would do that for decades. I don't know if people are doing that so much anymore. Maybe they are, but asking yourself, am I putting my own needs aside for the sake of this relationship? And I know many of us have been trained as children to exactly do that, and at least in the faith I grew up in, is we're supposed to offer everything up, and we'll get our rewards in the future. I think it was supposed to be the next life. So have you been putting your needs aside for the sake of the relationship or to make another person happy? Are you communicating your needs effectively to the people who are significant in your life? It's really important for us to at least recognize these patterns, because you can never change anything if you're in denial about it. If you say, I'm here because of the kids, I'm here because of this, you're telling yourself a lot of excuses. You can do that, of course, but it won't take you where you want to go. If you don't deal with something, it's going to continue. And usually whatever the pattern is, that you're miserable, if you're miserable in a pattern, it will just grow and grow and grow. We have a saying in religious science, life gives clues. In other words, the universe will give you, they'll give you the soft nudges, but if you're in denial, then we get what's called the cosmic 2x4, and if you don't get it then, you might get a freight train or something, So there was a funny old minister who used to say, same song, different verse, a little bit louder and a little bit worse. In other words, these patterns are within us. We have the ability to heal our life. We teach you here how to do it. We have the power to use. And Ernest Holmes said there's power for good in you, and you can use it. So the law of mind, the law of attraction would suggest we have all the power in the world to heal our life. But you got to want it. That's a message from the 12-step programs too. Willingness is the key. And you've got to want to have these improvements. And you know what? You'll have them if you want them. And if you stay the course, if you stay on being. I said before, this was very informative when I learned this many years ago. In truth, there's nothing outside of you. So if you find yourself talking about what the other person doing wrong all the time, that's a clue right there that you've missed the boat. Because your story is not about anybody else. Your story is about you. It's about what you allow. It's what you allow to continue. You are the author of your own experience, and you can heal your life. I've got a few affirmations for us this evening to improve relationships. One is, I communicate my needs and desires clearly and lovingly. That's one you could put on a refrigerator door. Or here's another, I set healthy boundaries in all my relationships. Now that doesn't mean you have to become a pill, it doesn't mean you have to, just be putting people in check everywhere, but it's gentle. I set healthy boundaries in all my relationships. That means I can be loving, but I can also care for myself. I can say no. I don't have to say no in an angry way. I can just gently say, no, I don't think that's what I want to do today. Or, sounds good, for you. I'm not, it's learning, and I know it's difficult for people, but to say no, I prefer to do something else. Visualization exercises are great for healthy communication and letting go of unhealthy relationships. So I gave you an example already. It's always important to let go of things that don't serve us. We're always in the business here of trading in the lesser ideas for the greater. Couple questions just to, it's for you to do a little inventory again. Are you staying in a relationship out of fear? Are you staying in relationships out of obligation? That doesn't have to be romantic relationships. I used to have somebody I talked to for about 5 years, and I got off the phone always feeling like, God, why do I keep talking to this person? And I had to find ways to set limits on it. I didn't want to push them out of my life, but it was an energy drain every single time. So are you in anything like that? Are you staying in relationships out of obligation or out of fear? Next question, are you sacrificing your own happiness for the sake of, some family obligation or relationship? So let me move to the next page. Here's a couple releases for you. I release the need to be in unhealthy relationships. I release all unhealthy relationships from my life. And then here's a positive one. I am deserving a loving and fulfilling relationship. And then there's many forgiveness exercises, which we'll talk about another time. We talk about forgiveness often here. So the point of tonight is it's important to have healthy relationships, and you get to decide who's in your life, and you get to decide the amount of time you spend with people. We're always working here on the most important relationship in the world, which is the one that you have with yourself. Never, never, never criticize yourself. I always ask people every Thursday, what has it been like being you? And I ask that because that conversation you're having all through the week is reflective of what your consciousness is. So if that conversation, when we're not with you, you're with yourself. It's nighttime, you're watching the news, it's daytime, it's all through the day. It's that conversation that you're having with yourself and your train of thoughts. All of that is really, really creative stuff. That inner thought process and that conversation is your consciousness, and that's being reflected in the world. It's being taken by mind and it's being acted upon. So that inner dialogue is creating your very life. So what kind of inner dialogue would we want to have? I mean, we can hide out and have everybody think we're wonderful here. You know, we show up in different places, but it's that inner dialogue that's so, so important. So if we want to have better personal relationships, it always comes back to us. Loving ourselves, lifting that conversation on high, understanding that every encounter is a holy encounter, understanding that people, however you find them, wherever you find them, are doing the best that they can with the consciousness that they have. And you get to choose who you hang out with. You get to choose who you spend time with. And the big work always is working on the dialogue you're having with yourself. All healing is self-healing. So we want to encourage everybody on the call. Lately, we've been having over 100 people every week on 2 sessions. Jimmy did a wonderful exercise this week and last in our Creative Living series where he had a lot of people he helped. I wasn't surprised, but I'm really thrilled how well people responded to what he was presenting. Everything we're doing here is encouraging people to continue practicing self-love and knowing that they have the power. That's what we teach in Science of Mind and Louise. You have power to use to heal your life, improve your life, to improve your health, to make you more prosperous, and to let go of these thought patterns and allow us to soar.